Have you ever thought about why it matters that we reform our nation's prison system? It's something that I think about continuously, even though I've been out of prison since 2013, about 12 years ago when I finished my obligation to the Bureau of Prisons. But I never stopped thinking about why we should reform the system. I'm going to give you some ideas. You see, the prison system incarcerates more people per capita than any other nation on the planet. And people in America serve sentences that are far too long. We'll call it a system of corrections, but historically, we could see that the longer we expose people to corrections, the less likely those people are to function as law-abiding, contributing citizens. So we really need to change the system because it is perpetuating this intergenerational cycle of poverty and recidivism. The longer people serve in prison, the less likely they are to function outside. And what can we do to change that? How does that system influence every American? This matters because it doesn't make society safer. It actually changes society in a very bad way, that it's almost like a modern day slavery where people are locked in there. They're blocked from opportunities to learn how to function in society. They're told when to eat, when to sleep, what they can read, with whom they can visit, how frequently they can visit. And a parade of horribles follows from that system because there are all types of budgetary problems. There are political problems. There are all kinds of problems that ensue when we incarcerate people for multiple decades. When we measure justice by how many pages of a calendar turn rather than by how hard a person has worked to prepare for success. And when people come into the system, there is this entire machine, this ecosystem that is built around incarceration. So they're not really in pursuit of justice. They are in pursuit of convictions. They are in pursuit of ripping away liberties, separating people from family, making things harder, dehumanizing people. That's the system. And what can we do to make it better? Well, we could start by thinking about what is it that we want? What is the goal that we want? Do we want to be the world's leading incarcerator in the home of the free, the land of liberty? Do we want to incarcerate more people than any other nation? Sure, when somebody breaks the law, consequences should follow. But a lot of time, those consequences should be civil, not criminal. Locking a person in a cage is not the right answer. And this is something I know about because I was incarcerated for 9,500 days. But the result that came from my 9,500 days was not of anything that I learned from being a prisoner. It's what I learned from Socrates. It's what I learned from Frederick Douglass. It's what I learned from Nelson Mandela and Viktor Frankl and Mahatma Gandhi and so many other people who taught me how to think differently. That's my job now, to be able to go back into prisons and help people see the relationship between the decisions they are making today and their prospects for success in the weeks, months, years, and decades ahead. And if I can make an impact on helping more of those people find a pathway to prepare for success, well, then I will feel like the entire 26 years that I served were not entirely wasted. They will be some way that I can bring meaning and value to our society. That's why I launched prisonprofessors.org. It's a nonprofit that comes with 3 promises that I make. 1, I'm never going to lie to you. 2, I'm never going to ask you to do anything I didn't do. And 3, I'm never going to ask anybody to pay me a penny. All of this is because it matters. You see, when we've built this massive ecosystem of prisons, it's governed by budgets and politics and unions and so many other reasons that make things harder. You see, President Trump passed the First Step Act as an example in 2018 in December. But it's taken many, many years before that act got implemented. And there's a lot more that we can do. But the reality is that when budgets get cut, what do you think gets cut first? People in prison. So there are no educational programs available to people in prison. There are no pathways for people to learn. The world is evolving with cryptocurrency and artificial intelligence and biotech and Web 3.0 and all of these amazing technologies. But people in prison are stuck in like the 1960s. They don't have a path. So that's one of the things that we do at prisonprofessors.org is we develop these relationships that ultimately are going to work to help people come home from prison successfully with their dignity intact, with opportunities to prosper. That's not going to happen by accident. I've got to build a machine, right? Jim Collins wrote about this in his book, Good to Great. He spoke about that flywheel concept, right? It's very tough to get that flywheel spinning at first, but then it starts to build on a momentum of its own. And I've been working on that flywheel, I think, ever since I went into the prison system on August the 11th, 1987, or maybe it was a year later because I was locked in solitary confinement, and that's when I first read Plato's Republic. And that is the book that really, one of the books that really started to change the way that I think. And once you change the way that you think, you could change what you're going to do. It helped me realize that I've got to stop thinking about my own challenges and start thinking about how am I going to connect with society. Well, I'd have to think about what does society expect from me. To quote that statement that John Kennedy made, don't think about what your country can do for you. Think about what you could do for your country. Well, as a result of serving multiple decades in prison, I can be an ambassador for personal development, an ambassador for change, an ambassador for being the CEO of your life. And how do you do that? You start by visualizing the best possible outcome. Then you come up with a plan that's going to help you get from where you are to where you want to go. You put priorities in place that are going to advance you along the path of success. Then you've got to build your tools, tactics, and resources. They're going to keep the plan moving. You've got to adjust when there's a necessary for an adjustment. And you've got to create your own accountability metrics that measure progress. And then you have to execute that plan every single day. That's the mission that I've been on ever since I learned this way of thinking when I was locked in solitary confinement back in the late 1980s, I guess. I got arrested in 1987. I went through trial, and it was while I was in solitary confinement that I started to read these books and started to change. And I had to take this methodical step that in the end, I hope would help more people get to home confinement faster, that would provide work release programs for people in prison, that would minimize the number of people we prosecute criminally and use a civil response when a civil response is appropriate. We would create a system that doesn't penalize everything and incarcerate everything. Incarceration should not be our first response. We should not be proud of incarcerating more people than any other nation on the planet. I can assure you, by the time I served 8 years in prison, I was as ready to come home as I ever would have been. By then, I had a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. I was a published author. I was ready, and I was in my early 30s. I could have built a life, but there was no mechanism. So I had to serve an additional 16 years at a cost to taxpayers of well over $1 million. Besides the lost wages. And I make $1 million a year in my business, so I pay a lot of taxes. I could have been doing that for many, many decades. The reality, unfortunately, is the prison system perpetuates intergenerational cycles of failure, and the work that we do at prisonprofessors.org matters. It matters because we are going to help more people prepare for success. We're going to help more people emerge with their dignity intact and with opportunities to prosper. But we can't do it alone. I need to build these coalitions. I need to build coalitions with institutions that will allow our products into the institutions irrespective of their ability to pay. If they can pay, great. Then we'll create something to work within their budgets, even if it's matching their budget, so to provide books and courses to help people in prison. But if they can't pay, I'm not going to let that be a burden. We'll find a way to raise the money to get it in there. But I also need help from the people who are going into the system. You can't just expect your lawyer to change your life. You can't expect a prison consultant to change your life. You've got to learn how do you do it, and money will never be a barrier to any member of our community at Prison Professors. The only barrier is your ability to think. I am an ambassador of the message, and I'm going to show you what I did while I was in prison and what I am still doing today. That's what matters. And then I'm going to measure it. I can't tell you how many people are going to work as hard as me. Nobody knows how hard I had to work while I was in prison, and nobody knows how hard I work to earn $1 million a year in society. But I will tell you, I don't need anybody to pull the strings for me. I can do it myself because of the lessons that I learned while going through these courses in prison, and that's what I strive to teach as many people as possible. So I'm going to ask you, become a member of our community. So if you want to volunteer, reach out and find a way to volunteer. If you want to spread our message to institutions in your area, then spread our message. If you want to learn how you can help yourself because you're going into the system, then use everything that we are doing. We are definitely committed to helping more people use their time today to sow seeds and become successful for what they want to be in the months, years, and decades ahead. Again, I'll never ask anybody to do anything I didn't do. I'll never lie to you, and I'll never charge you a penny. My name is Michael Santos. I'm the founder of Prison Professors. I encourage you to follow us and subscribe to us on social, wherever you get your social media. Use our resources. Subscribe to our newsletter if it makes sense to you. But be a part of the change that you want to see in the world. I know the change I want to see in the world, ending intergenerational cycles of poverty and helping more people who live in struggle find their path, find their way, and become successful. My name is Michael Santos, and I believe in you.